Good afternoon and welcome you all to the eighth day of the webinar series based on the guidance document for health system response for persons with disabilities and functional impairment during pandemic, that's COVID-19. And today's is the eighth day. Our topic for today's discussion is concerns and care of older persons with disabilities during COVID-19 like pandemic. So you might be familiar with this quote of Amartya Sen. Disabled people who are not only disabled people are not only the most deprived human beings in the developing world, they also are the most neglected. So this is one phrase which should catch our attention always, especially for persons who are working in the field of disabilities. And coming to the concerns and care of older persons with disabilities during COVID-19. So this is our today's topic, especially relating to the older persons concerns and their care. The differently abled older population has the twofold disadvantage, that is disability and aging. So we can call it as a double burden, disability added on with the aging issues. They require special attention during this pandemic. Problems related to communication, mobility, and or cognition make the older adults more vulnerable to getting infected. The elderly face the additional challenge of lack of knowledge of using technology to connect with their peers or family members in addition to the already low number of social activities. So these are the various issues on a glance we can say, like disability and aging in itself is a double burden, because aging in itself has got its own lot of issues. So we'll just glance through the physiological changes associated with aging. So this diagram here depicts the decline in the various physiological parameters with aging. Here you can see the maximum breathing capacity at the age of 30, if it is 100, by around at the age of 80, the maximum breathing capacity declines to 40% of the 100% capacity. Similarly, the cardiac output, as age increases, the cardiac output declines, and by about 70 years of age, only 70% is the cardiac output compared to a young adult. Similarly, the basal metabolic rate also declines, and by around about the age of 80, the BMR declines by 90%, and similarly, the NCV or the nerve conduction velocity also declines. And the manifestations of atherosclerosis, especially on coronary arteries, if we take, the possibility for fibrous plaques increases as the age advances. Similarly, the possibility for calcified lesions also increases with age, and even up 50% up to stenosis can be noticed in the age group of 55 to 64. Similarly, you take any of the physiological apparatus in our body, there is decline in all its activities. If it is the cardiovascular capacity, the total cell mass declines. The fat storage increases up to 65 to 70%. The central and peripheral neural network decreases. Myocardial cells, the number of cells decreases. Tissue compliance and dispensability decreases. Coming to the respiratory system, bronchial ciliary function increases. Dyspnea, there will be more dyspnea. Mucus accumulation increases. Alveolar changes, exchange in the surface decreases. The dead space and the volume increases. Similarly, if you take the nervous system, the cell and fiber loss increases. The neuroaxonal degeneration increases. Central conduction decreases. Catecholamine synthesis, which is the neurotransmitter, that main neurotransmitter, that declines, and the disposal of catecholamines increases. Similarly, if you take the bones, the mass and mineralization decreases and osteoporosis increases. Coming to the special senses, the reaction speed decreases, whereas the acuity increases. Coming to thermoregulation, tolerance to heat decreases, sweat decreases, vasodilatation decreases, and the skin fold thickness gradually increases. Coming to the aerobic power, it declines. Self-paced and machine-paced, the compliance declines. Coming to muscle strength, the muscle mass declines, muscle diameter declines, speed of contraction, maximum voluntary strength, as well as control of movements. Everything just declines. And coming to the musculoskeletal disorder, tendon elasticity as well as the joint flexibility also declines as the age advances. So as you have just seen, all the physiological parameters gets compromised as the age advances. Coming to the concerns and care of older people with disabilities, again, physically they are also more difficult to be managed by their caregivers, and any additional problem related to urination or defecation adds to their requirements. It's not for all old age people, but those who are having urinary incontinence or fecal incontinence due to their disability state or due to some comorbidities, the difficulty of management increases drastically. Many a time, the differently abled persons have difficulty in accessing health services, and so their rights need to be protected. Unless special focus is bestowed upon in this regard, people just tend to ignore that, and older people with disability, they find it difficult in accessing healthcare services. Older adults with disabilities belong to an underprivileged home will also face financial difficulties and lack of availability of basic resources like nutrition, medication, emergency care, and hygiene. This point we had discussed previously as well, because it's a vicious cycle. Owing to their disability, they tend to be belonging to the lower socioeconomic status, which in turn increases their inaccessibility to the medical as well as other rehabilitation services, which further negatively affects their disability state, and it becomes a vicious cycle. This disability, low socioeconomic state, the lack of access, then this is a vicious cycle which is forming. There are changes of cognitive rigidity with aging. The physiological details we have discussed just now, the neuronal functions, the brain function, higher cortical functions, all are getting compromised, and their cognitive performance also declines substantially. The preventive measures require social distancing and self-isolation, leading to changes in daily functioning. Because many a time people with disabilities themselves, their main mode was through social interaction. So this social distancing and self-isolation in itself has caused severe hindrance in their interaction with the other public. They will find such changes perplexing or irritating, further complicating their management, especially, as I said, because of their the neurocognitive changes. The older people find it difficult to adjust with the current scenario or the change in their routines, and that makes them more perplexed and irritated. So the caregivers or the persons around them should be understanding enough to know that these are normal things which is happening with such a person. With the overutilization of healthcare services and especially healthcare workers, those who have a disability will not be a priority. See, this is one point which we keep on reiterating, because already the healthcare services are compromised. The healthcare workers number is very less, and they are overstressed. Their burden, the workload is so high that even otherwise they are in a stress. So people belonging to the marginalized sector, not just persons with disabilities, for that matter, even transgenders, the older people, all such people who belongs to the marginalized sector, naturally it tends to get unnoticed, or they are further pushed to the margins. So when it comes to older persons with disabilities, again, the concept of double burden becomes significant here. Hence, preventive measures need to be in place. Ensuring the well-being of older persons involves an integrated care plan to address all components that contributes to their disability. The elderly adults primarily live with their families or caregivers in many of their situations. Some of them may be living in institutions, and the minority will be living alone. And the recommendations by the ICMR are provided here. Herein applies for all these three categories. And in the slides which I had shown, those things pertaining to the physiological parameters that I had taken from a geriatric textbook, and that does not belong to the ICMR guidelines per se. Coming to the physical impairment aspect of older persons with disabilities, one is mainly the immobility syndrome. This is a result of situations when mobility is restricted, such as being idle with healing from surgery, post-hospital discharge, and any other health conditions. Older people are especially prone to the risk of immobility syndrome. And let me just remind you that by another 2 minutes, this session will be blocked, and you just need to re-enter to continue with the session, because the current timing it's showing is less than 2 minutes. So you just need to click the rejoin button so that we can resume our discussion. So coming back to the risk of immobility syndrome, the risk for further health problems include loss of muscle mass, strength, and range of motion. I discussed such things in the earlier slides. Increased pain and stiffness, balance problems, osteoporosis, bowel and urinary issues like urinary incontinence, reduced health of the heart. I discussed in detail with slides regarding the possibility of atherosclerosis. And similarly, the cardiac output will be less, the cardiac functioning will be less, my possibility for myocardiopathies will be there, myocardial infarction can be there, stable angina, unstable anginas will be there. So the heart function gets reduced substantially. Then there is higher risk of DVT, or deep vein thrombosis. This deep vein thrombosis can further lead to pulmonary embolism like conditions, which can even be life threatening, or it can lead to stroke like conditions, especially many sudden deaths in the case of corona virus infected people. At least a minority has the risk of DVT or the deep vein thrombosis has been reported as one of the possibilities. Then postural hypotension, wherein a person, especially an old age person, when he is getting up from the lying down position, there is a sudden loss in the blood pressure, or there is a hypotension, the blood pressure decreases. That is called postural. So DVT we just discussed, and postural hypotension is the phenomenon wherein there is a sudden loss in blood pressure when a person, especially an person, right? Uh, Someone's mic is on. Okay, thank you. His blood pressure declines when he tries to stand up from a lying down position. Then there is the memory related issues. It can be diagnosable pathological conditions like dementia. There are various types of dementia or other conditions where there is. So memory problems can be of various reasons. Various neurological conditions can lead to memory problems, including the commonly encountered Alzheimer's disease and other related senile dementias and other neurological conditions, and in certain post-stroke phenomena, etc. Then depression, the incidence of depression also increases as the age advances, especially in the current corona pandemic scenario. Many a time this scenario itself can be a precipitating factor in many of the elderly persons who are already genetically and otherwise prone for conditions like depression. Then there is the disturbed or poor sleep. Hypersomnia may be seen in someone, some decreased sleep, or a lot of sleep irregularities can be there as a symptom of depression. Terminal insomnia can be seen. Even otherwise, I am not going into the details of the pathology of sleep here, but these are the major problems. Then there can be dizziness, then slower thought process, reduced coordination, the details of which we had discussed in the previous slides. Okay, coming to the further mobility issues, the elderly may have mobility issues due to general weakness and conditions like Parkinson's disease. Parkinson's disease, again, it adds on to the mobility issues because there can be tremors, bradykinesia, rigidity of the muscles, then loss of autonomic movements, speech can be impaired. There can be mask-like facies, gait difference issues can be there. So those all leads to mobility issues. Similarly, stroke, it can lead to hemiplegia, hemiparesis, paraparesis, and even some accidents where transections in the spinal cord level happens, which can lead to quadriplegia even. Then amputations, cardiac issues, various cardiac issues leading to the compromised mobility, respiratory conditions like chronic obstructive pulmonary disorder, the COPD, asthma, bronchiectasis, etc. To help them with their mobility, they may resort to the use of assistive and adaptive devices like a walker, cane, or wheelchair, splints, and adaptive aids. And physical impairment, coming to the self-care issues. The elderly may have difficulty using upper limbs for self-care activities like brushing, washing, dressing, eating, propelling their wheelchair, and transferring between different surfaces due to the pre-existing comorbidities. So the various comorbidities we have already discussed. Because of the existing comorbidities, they may be finding it difficult even for their activities of daily living like self-care issues. A visually impaired person, elderly with a poor eye vision, or maybe blind, even hearing impairment, total deafness or partial deafness, and speech impairment. So all such persons will find such things furthermore difficult. And coming to the recommendations, these are the major recommendations given as per the guidance document of the ICMR. Maintain a routine for everyday activities. A timetable of activity needs to be maintained. That includes physical activities for the entire body. So to have this timetable is very important. It's not just for a person with disability, or it's not just regard to a person with disability who is an old age person, but it's applicable for all and every person, including you and me. You should have a timetable of activity, and that should include physical activities for the entire body. This helps the elderly person to know that there is something to do, and it is a time bound activity, and it is a predictable activity, so that does not add on to their anxiety or other uncertainties. So you have a predictable activity to do, you have a timetable for that, and that takes care of your physical needs, means that is a good thing to be done. Then stick this timetable in a place that you can see. It will serve as a reminder. So not just preparing a timetable is sufficient, but you have to adhere to that. For that, you can simply stick. This is a very practical tip, by sticking it to some visible points, like say in front of the just beneath the TV which you are watching, or maybe in front of in the door of the fridge or something like that. A minimum of 30 minutes of moderate intensity physical activity is recommended. The types of exercise include stretching, strengthening, endurance, balance, and coordination activities. So, if an elderly person himself can schedule such things, well and good. Otherwise, you as a caregiver or the primary family member or the first degree family member of such an elderly person with disability, or being a professional in rehabilitation, you should be able to assist and help the elderly persons with disability in drawing up such an activity schedule, and to giving insight for them regarding what all types of exercise need to be done. That should include stretching, strengthening, endurance, balance, and coordination activity. And if you are not well versed in that, you can seek the assistance of other professionals, including PMR doctor, or your OT, PT, or even a yoga therapist, or the physician of the elderly person. If the person is having some comorbidity, there may be some exercises which may be contraindicated in his given comorbid condition state. So then those things has to be taken into account, and a practical sort of schedule for such physical activities is being done, means that will be a very good thing which can be done for the person with disability, especially an elderly person. Then mild to moderate mobility issues can do these exercise in standing and minimal supervision. Severe balance and coordination issues need close supervision. Those staying alone can do these in sitting or lying on the bed. So, as I said, if there is some sort of a comorbidity or some other physical illness is suspected, wherein a specific, say for example, a stretching exercise would be contraindicated with this neurological condition, then we should not attempt that. So, basically, it should be supervised. And for persons with severe balance and the coordination issues, that they need special close supervision. Then you take care of your body. Take deep breaths, stretch or meditate. Try to eat healthy, well-balanced meals, exercise regularly, get plenty of sleep, and avoid alcohol. Because many a time people are resorting to alcohol as a stress buster, but this is not at all a good approach or attitude, because that is never recommended. For that matter, tobacco or alcohol is never recommended as a stress buster in any of these stressful events, and such sort of adherence to such addictive things further on only complicate your medical and neurological all complications. Ensure the assistive aids are cleaned every day with a sanitizer. Take the help of a youngster to do this daily at home if required. And if staying alone, it can be cleaned once in 2 to 3 days. So a healthy utilization of the resources within the family or within the house in which you are staying, that would be a very practical thing to be done. The elderly can utilize the help or assistance of youngsters in the house to get these things done in a very positive manner. And if they are staying alone, ICMR guidance document says that at least once in 2 to 3 days, you need to clean or sanitize the assistive devices which you are using. Sanitizing frequently touched surfaces. The visual impaired move around by using touching. So their sense organ is itself is a touch. So they touch, and even for reading they touch and read braille. So the touch increases manifold for a person with visual impairment. So the home environment must be kept clean, and areas in which they come in regular contact must be sanitized. It should be sanitized more than for any other normal person. If a visual impaired person is there, definitely you should be more particular in sanitizing it in a further more frequent manner than otherwise. Hearing aid must be kept checked periodically to ensure that they have adequate battery power and are working. In a time when everyone needs to know what is happening around, being unable to hear can confuse the elderly as to what is happening around them. This may increase their anxiety levels. A very simple tip, but it is of immense value, because a person with hearing impairment using a hearing aid, if he is not able to access that device properly, then his medium of interaction itself is being abruptly stopped. So that leads on to a lot of anxiety and uncertainty in the person. It may be a matter of a battery, a small simple small battery costing maybe 10 or 20 rupees, but if you are not replacing it in the right time, the kind of anxiety and stress and uncertainty a person with hearing impairment will have to go through is tremendous, especially when it is a person in his older age group, fag end of his life, that add-ons to his stress furthermore. Elderly with more than two health issues must take extra care and precaution. As I said, uh, disability in the elderly population in itself is a double burden, and the elderly population usually they tend to have other illnesses. Statistically speaking, the chance of incidence of all such illnesses, especially lifestyle diseases like hypertension, diabetes, dyslipidemia, all such things gradually increases as the age advances as well. So elderly with more than two health issues, their care should be extra. Keep their doctor's number. Must have access to a clinic or hospital to reach in case of emergency. We don't know which next moment the person will be in trouble. So we should not wait for the 13th hour or things to happen for us to rush around and look where the number of the doctor is or where the hospital is, like that. So you all, especially the caregivers, especially and the rehab professionals in the field, should be aware of such things, and you should be able to equip the primary caregivers or the first degree relatives of such, especially older persons with disabilities, with all such informations and data. Keep their doctor's number, keep the number of pharmacies, have the number of a pharmacy that does home delivery of medicines, keep sufficient stock of medications, make sure they have sufficient stock of their regular medication, keep helpline number at hand, keep emergency department numbers in a place that is accessible easily. As I said, maybe in front of just beneath your television, or in the door of your fridge or somewhere, so that anyone who just glances his eyes can very well stumble upon the number, and further health assistance can be availed. Send an SMS or WhatsApp greeting every day to two of your immediate family. This advice is given to the person, especially elderly person with disability, for those who are staying alone. You can simply send a good morning, a good afternoon, and a good night WhatsApp message to your children or any other immediate friend or neighbor for that matter. This helps them to know that you are well and all right. In case they do not receive this message from you, then they need to come and check. Alert the nearest relative or the police station. So this is a good measure which everyone, especially those who are living alone, can resort to, because your near and dear one, maybe it's just because they don't love you that they are not near you. Because of their practical life issues, they may be away from you. They may be very much bothered and concerned regarding your needs, but practically they are not in a position to be of assistance physically at your in your vicinity. So as such situations, you can as a mandatory principle, you can 3 days or 2 days per day send messages to your near and dear ones. And if they are not receiving your such sort of alert message, means they can very well assume that something has gone wrong, and they can come immediately for your help, or they can at least alert someone near you who can come and help you, like that. And please explain to them the purpose of this message. This simple good morning, good afternoon, etc., implies huge significance in that. This is one thing which can be practiced very easily by all the elderly people living alone. And coming to the mental health issues, anxiety, fear, depression, helplessness, uncertainty, loneliness, and lack of socialization have a negative effect on their mental health. It is the responsibility of the family to look after their elderly family members in this time of crisis. It's normal for most individuals to worry or feel stressed about a pandemic such as this, and may not necessarily indicate mental health problems. This is important. Any person who is expressing a sort of an anxiety or sort of a depressive cognitions doesn't mean that he is mentally ill per se. It is because of this pandemic scenario that he is not in a position to comprehend it in a manner which is expected to be happening. So that doesn't mean that the person is mentally ill per se. However, if it continues for too long and crosses a certain limit, it can lead to mental health issues. Warning signs of mental health problems in the elderly. These are the major warning signs as laid down by the ICMR guidelines. Irritability or anger, lack of interest in daily activities, uh, complaining that they do not, can I just hold on? Hello, President. So irritability or anger, lack of interest in daily activities, complaining that they do not know how to or cannot do things that were part of their normal routine. So those things which they had done previously, but now they find it difficult or they are not in a position to do that, means that is a heralding sign of a mental health problem. Crying easily or frequently, then disturbed sleep. This can even be increased sleep, not just decreased sleep, but it can be increased sleep even. Loss of appetite or food refusal, unwillingness to remain alone even for short times, becoming excessively demanding or dependent on other family members. These are some of the major warning signs of a mental health problem, especially in the elderly. Who are at a greater risk of mental health problem among the elderly population? Naturally, widows and widowers, those who are living alone, those with ongoing family disputes or conflicts, those with financial difficulties, those with chronic physical illness such as diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, etc., those with physical disabilities such as difficulty in walking, vision, or hearing impairment, or for that matter, any disability, those with memory problems, and those who have suffered from mental disorders in the past. So we know that mental illness is multifactorial, and a person who is already predisposed for a mental health issue like a genetic preponderance and other predispositions are there. So when the environment, in double inverted, when the environment becomes congenial for such an illness to manifest, then the person manifests the symptoms of the illness. So now the crisis phase in itself is associated with lot of stress, anxiety, and all. So a person who was suffering from a mental illness previously has got a higher chance for a relapse of his symptoms, and also owing to all the other aforesaid reasons, that can be a precipitating factor for an already pre-existing mental health condition. And caregiving in an elderly person, take care of their physical health. Even in taking care of their mental health, the component of the physical health is important. And there is a close link between physical and mental health, as we all know. Only in a good body resides a good mind, and vice versa is also relevant. If chronic conditions like diabetes, hypertension, or heart disease are not treated regularly, it may lead to negative thoughts and feelings. So it's not just not just enough for treating the comorbidities properly for their physical issues, but also any such concern within the person will worsen his mental health condition as well. So if he's feeling that, yeah, my diabetes is being well taken care of, I am regularly taking antihypertensives and I don't have any hypertension now, means that adds on to his confidence. And so even for his mental health, to look after the physical illness is important. Caregiving includes taking and stocking up of regular medications or injections, following dietary restrictions, and doing regular exercises. These are all again very important. You know the importance. I don't think there is need for me to explain it further. If there is any difficulty in obtaining medications for your elderly family member, please contact the local authorities for assistance, because there are a lot of assistance measures being devised by the local self governments and the local administration, including the state and central governments. So you just need to be aware of what all things are there, what all assistance are available, and avail the assistances accordingly for the better mental and physical health of your elderly disabled person. Encourage social contacts. Being lonely or isolated is harmful to mental health. It's applicable not just to a person with disability who is in his old age, but it's applicable to every one of us. Being lonely or isolated is harmful to our mental health. The elderly who live alone with only few family members are at risk of feeling lonely, especially if relatives, friends, etc., can no longer visit them because of safety measures. So these are all, again, these forms a vicious cycle because of the safety measures which we are adhering to now, like the all the precautionary measures of social distancing, isolation, quarantine, lockdown, and all. We are not in a position to visit our near and dear one frequently as we were doing previously. So that will add on to their anxiety and stress. If an old age person is living alone and who had been previously been frequently visited by his son, daughter, or other first degree or second degree relatives and close friends who used to visit him for the past many months, no one is visiting him, means that itself can add on to the complication of his psychological processes. One should try to maintain contact with friends and family by remote means such as telephone call or online communication if this is feasible. This is very important because again, as we discussed in some previous sessions as well, such people are not that techno savvy persons, so they may find it difficult to use the newer gadgets or the newer softwares for communication. Even the use of a WhatsApp may be a bit a difficult thing for a person in his 80s. So we should understand that, and we should try to equip them in that as well. If you have an elderly relative who lives far away, make sure to keep in touch with them regularly and encourage others in your family to do the same. It's not just that you keep in touch, you also encourage the near and dear one around you. Maybe he or she is not that aware regarding the requirement. Then, being a person in this profession or a caregiver of a person, such a person, it becomes your mandatory responsibility to see to it that the other dear and near one are also adhering to such recommendations. Being in contact with others and communicating with them often can help us to fight feelings of sadness and worry and can reduce the stress naturally. Then establish a routine at home that we discussed earlier as well. Because of the COVID-19 outbreak, all of us have had to make sudden changes to our activities and daily schedule. This has not just happened to the elderly person. The change in the daily schedule is so devastating to many because we were not used to such changes. Maybe for the past 6 months, many of us are just sitting at our home without going anywhere. That we have never thought of thought of such a scenario in our wildest of our dreams. So that is a drastic change in the routines which has been happening. This can be disturbing to the elderly, especially those who are used to a particular routine, and can cause them to feel worried or stressed naturally. Hence, it is important to try and preserve daily routines at home as far as possible, avoiding only those activities which are against safety measures or government rules. So, it is this is a very practical tip of importance. Try to preserve daily routines at home as far as possible, but avoid those activities which are against safety measures. For example, if you were in a habit of going for an evening walk, now it is an lockdown area, naturally you cannot go out at that time. So apart from such safety measures adhered to by the government norms, other than that, try to preserve your daily routines as much as possible. This will help to retain a sense of normalcy in the household and cause fewer worries to the elderly. So these are simple things, but if you bestow our attention and if you are able to apply much time for the thought process of such things, we can come up with very good schedules and timetables which will be near normal to an elderly person, so that that will add on to his level of assurance. Provide accurate information. To an elderly person, suddenly hearing about a strange disease may be extremely frightening. He may not be able to take it up in a manner in which a young adult is taking the same stress situation. This is made worse by the profusion of false and misleading information that is available online, especially through social media. This is very important. Through social media, now there is a deluge of informations. We don't know whether all these informations are 100% correct. So, for any information related to the pandemic, always resort to the official channels, right from starting from the World Health Organization to the National Health Department to the State Health Service Department. There are a lot of authentic bodies. Just rely on their informations. Maybe many a time the forwarded messages in our WhatsApp or in our Facebook page may seem to be very appealing, may seem to be very real, but maybe it may be partial truths, it may be totally falsified informations. We don't know. So never rely upon or never trust anything which is being forwarded in the social media unless and until you are sure that it is from a very reliable source. Or else, for any information, just resort to the routine mediums like television or a newspaper, which we can trust to a great extent, at least for the facts and figures, apart from the politics in that. Similarly, all authentic sites. For all informations, you just need to browse those, and whatever rubbish, I would say rubbish in double inverted, coming in the social media should be ignored, depending on the merit of the content. The elderly must be given accurate information about this disease, its mode of transmission, its symptoms, and the safety measures to be adopted by all of us. So we cannot just simply assume that they all are knowing the maybe an 85-year-old grandma is there in our house. We cannot simply assume that she knows everything regarding the precautionary measures or even simple hand wash. So you spend time with her and ensure that this is he or she is becoming aware of what is happening. Should be explained to them clearly and in a language that they are comfortable with, without unnecessary use of technical terms or abbreviations that may only confuse them further. That's also important. Be patient, be understanding, be empathetic, spend time with them, explain to them in very simple manner. Don't rush through the content. Use very simple language only. Stop using abbreviations. You simply cannot say, grandma, since you are having COPD, you are not supposed to go out like that. She will not understand anything. So be patient and using very simple language, try to put forth the idea and make sure that they understand what you have told. Provide accurate information. Even if an elderly person keeps asking for clarifications about this, we should not become impatient or scold them, because their comprehension is not as quick and fast as yours is. So you should give room for their sort of issues and be patient with them. Giving the elderly correct information can allay anxiety and reduce false ideas or beliefs about COVID-19. Important, because uh, they should also be taught the appropriate safety measures such as face covering and hand hygiene, as this can give them a greater sense of confidence and control over their situation. These are all very simple, seemingly silly practical tips, but it has got its own huge value as far as a person with disability in his fag end of his life is concerned. Encourage participation in activities without breaking rules for safety. Even if one has to remain confined at home, they should avoid being idle. So that is important. Being confined at home is one thing, and sitting at his home without doing anything 24/7 for past many months is something very different. A person can be very productive and can adhere to his routines and do all his physical and mentally entertaining activities from within the home. Only thing is that he need to schedule his activities accordingly. So it's not just regarding remaining confined at home, but it is about that you are actively involved in all the physical and social activities which you were previously involved in. It's about scheduling your activities. The elderly can easily become depressed or worried if they are told to stay still or just to do nothing. Instead of that, you should be particular in engaging them in various kinds of activities which will be relaxing to them. They should be encouraged to take part in some physical activities such as walking or gardening. If you have a garden, even a small one, you can have a kitchen garden. You can just cultivate vegetables. So there are a lot of things to be done, but only thing is that you need to apply your brains onto that, and you should think of a possible ways by which you can uh, keep the elderly person with disability engaged in his home. Encourage participation in activities without breaking rules for safety, which is continued. The level of activity should be based on their level of health and any physical disabilities they may have. So for such situations, maybe you will have to seek the advice and guidance of his doctor or his therapist regarding what all things we can do to keep him engaged physically. Those physical activities which are contraindicated because of his health conditions should not be included in the list. So a therapist or a treating doctor has his own role to play in scheduling such activities. However, they should avoid physical activities such as walking in public places, which may violate safety measures and precautions. At this point, which we had discussed previously. The same concept also applies to participation in religious rites and ceremonies. Many elderly people are especially attached to such rituals, which give them a sense of meaning, purpose, and security. This spiritual concern is important, especially for elderly population, because statistically speaking, majority of them, at least in our socio-cultural domain, are finding a solace in such sort of spiritual places and places of rituals, worship, etc. But again, we should be able to convince them that it is for the safety measures or safety requirements that you are not allowed to do such things as of now. They may experience distress when told that they cannot go to their local temple, mosque, or church. But just take time and explain to them why this is important. It should be explained to them that this is safety measure to protect their health as well as the health of others, and they can be encouraged to pray or perform such rites at home instead. So we are not just denying their right or their faith in anything, but we are just telling that, see, because of the current scenario, safety measures are of prime importance. So you are not supposed to do, but you can very well do the same thing sitting at your home like that. Special considerations for elderly persons with memory problems. It can be the memory problems can be just age related issues, or it can be a manifestation of a pathological condition like an Alzheimer's disease or senile dementia or dementia due to n number of other reasons, or some neurological conditions. If it is a treatable dementia or memory related issue or some other neurological condition which is leading to the memory problem, then such conditions should be identified and treated accordingly. Other than that, these points can also be adhered to. Some elderly people suffer from brain disease, which cause a loss of memory as well as behavioral problems. The term dementia is used to describe these problems. People with such diseases need to be looked after carefully during disease outbreaks, as they may not fully understand or cooperate with the safety measures. They may also show an increase in behavioral problems, such as irritability, anger, outbursts, or trying to wander away from home when faced with the stress of the COVID-19 outbreak. The caregiver of a severely demented person, maybe that is one of the most challenging of all tasks a human being is performing. Many a time such a caregiver has got burnout phenomenons. They simply get exhausted because of the immense pressure of the caregiving, just like a parent of a severely autistic spectrum child is suffering. It's not suffering per se, but still the kind of stress they are involved. Similarly, the caregiver of a demented person in his the terminal stages dementia and all is very stressful even otherwise. So added on to that, this pandemic scenario will simply exaggerate the responses. So take breaks from watching, reading, and listening to news stories and social media. This is another domain which we are now coming to. As I mentioned previously, this overexposure should be avoided. So you take break from watching TV or other your social media platforms. Then reading and listening to news stories and social media, hearing about the pandemic repeatedly can be upsetting. There is no point in repeatedly in, knowing just like what is the score of our Indian cricket team while they are playing. There is no need like over flooding us with data, and you just have to be aware of what's happening around you. You should be aware of what are the precautionary measures you have to do, and get involved in all other positive things. If they keep talking about past events and circumstances, do not discourage them from doing so. This may give them a sense of stability. That is important. You should not just curtail whatever an elderly person is telling. Maybe he has started off with his old story, which he has already told n number of times. No, if he is finding a solace in telling that, just let him do that. Do not show excess anger or fear in front of them, as this may worsen their behavioral problems. That's also important. We should not express our concerns, our uncertainty, our fear in front of them who belong to a weaker section than yours. Then they tend to imbibe your uncertainty and anxiety and depression, and that will manifest in their behavior as a behavioral issue, which will become a nuisance or a burden for you to tackle with. So do not show excessive anger or fear in front of them, as this may worsen the behavioral problems. Instead, talk to them in a clear, calm tone of voice. Try to explain safety precautions to them in simple language, even if you have to do this repeatedly. So here, empathy is important, patience is important. You need to discuss with them, you need to sit with them, you need to make them aware what's going around, and you should ensure that they have understood. Help them with activities such as hand washing if they are unable to. Avoid excess noise in the home. Even that is important. Excess of noise may be irritating to them. Try to establish regular times to have meals, bathrooms, and bed. Make sure that they continue to take whatever medicines they need for other physical conditions such as diabetes or hypertension. Adopt safety measures such as locking doors at night to prevent them from wandering away without their knowledge, and accidentally exposing themselves to COVID-19 infection. This sort of somnambulism can happen due to many reasons, and when it is in the elderly age group, there are other possibilities as well for such situations, but there is a risk for exposing them to COVID infection. So further attention need to be bestowed upon this. And coming to the other considerations in this regard, older adults, especially in isolation, and those with cognitive decline or dementia, older adults, especially in isolation, and those who with cognitive decline dementia may become, as I said, more anxious and angry, and they can become more stressed. So understand them, provide practical and emotional support through information networks, share simple facts about what is going on, and give clear information about how to reduce the risk of infection in words older people with or without cognitive impairment can understand. This is important because you should give room for their cognitive insufficiencies. If they are finding it difficult, spend more time with them, make it more simple, more lucid, and ensure that they are understanding. Repeat the information whenever necessary. Don't just haste through your informations. Ensure that he or she is understanding. Instructions need to be communicated in a clear, concise, respectful, and patient way. This respectful is also important. We should give respect to them. It is not that that person is ignored like anything. Give respect to his condition, give respect to his age, and in a clear and concise manner, you communicate the intended things. Engage family members and other support networks in providing information and helping people to practice prevention measures like hand wash, etc. If you have an underlying health condition, make sure to have access to any medications that you are currently using. So such things we have discussed earlier as well. Activate your social contacts to provide you with assistance if needed. So it's sort of a networking, in fact. So you will have to activate your network system so that any assistance is required, that is made available in the proper time. Be prepared and know in advance where and how to get practical help if needed, like calling a taxi, having food delivered, and requesting medical care. This is important because we may think that let the time come, then I will do. But in the 13th hour, we may not be in a position to access all these things at the at a dime of time. So you should have your own safety measures or your own precautionary measures so that you ensure such things are there if an emergency arises. Make sure you have up to 2 weeks of all your regular medicines that you may require. Learn simple daily physical exercise to perform at home in quarantine or isolation so you can maintain mobility and reduce boredom. Very important. These points were discussed in our some of our previous schedules as well. Keep regular routines and schedules as much as possible to help create new ones in a new environment, including regular exercising, cleaning daily chores, singing, painting, or other activities. Keep in regular contact with loved ones. Maybe it can be via telephone or email or any social media, because we know that other modes, I mean, in person, we are not in a position to. So keep in regular contact with your loved ones using other modalities. Know what medication your loved one is taking and see if you can help them have extra on hand. Monitor food and other medical supplies, oxygen, incontinence, dialysis, and wound care needed, and create a backup plan. As I said, maybe we are heading for further crisis. Maybe a lot of lockdowns here and there within our vicinity will be happening. So this preparedness is very important, especially medical supplies like oxygen or catheters, Eurobags, or dialysis kits, wound care set, etc. We should be, it should be ready with us if a need arises. Stock up on non-perishable food to minimize trips to stores. This is important. So once you are going for a purchase to a store, ensure that you are procuring things adequately so that for next couple of weeks, you need not go to the same store again to purchase the same thing. If you care for a loved one living in a care facility, monitor the situation, ask about the health of the other residents frequently, and know the protocol if there is an outbreak. Dementia care and support. Caregivers of individuals living with Alzheimer's and all other dementia should follow guidelines from the Center of Disease Control, CDC, and consider the following tips. As I said, the caregiving of a demented person, especially in his terminal stages of dementia, in itself is a huge task. So they themselves, the caregiver themselves would be needing stress busters. For people living with dementia, increased confusion is often the first symptom of any illness. If a person living with dementia shows rapidly increased confusion, contact your healthcare provider for advice. Unless the person is having difficulty breathing or a very high fever, it is recommended that you call your healthcare provider instead of going directly to an emergency room. Important to avoid as much exposure as possible from the chance of the coronavirus to contract. Your doctor may be able to treat the person without a visit to the hospital. People living with dementia may need extra and or written reminders and support to remember important hygienic practices from one day to the next. So consider placing signs in the bathroom and elsewhere to remind people with dementia to wash their hands with soap for 20 seconds. This is important because people with dementia may not remember to do all such things in the required manner. Demonstrate thorough hand washing. Alcohol-based hand sanitizer with at least 60% alcohol can be a quick alternative to hand washing if the person with dementia cannot get to a sink or wash his or her hands easily. This is important because many a time a bedridden patient person may not be in a position, or because of his dementia or other secondary complications of some comorbidities, he may not be in a position to walk out frequently to the wash basin to have his hands clean. So in such scenario, this sanitizer is of immense help. Ask your pharmacist or doctor about filling prescriptions for a greater number of days to reduce trips to the pharmacy. A simple thing, but effective. Think ahead and make alternative plans for the person with dementia. Should adult care, respite, etc., be modified or cancelled in response to COVID-19? Think ahead and make alternative plans for care management if the primary caregiver should become sick. This point we had discussed in detail in the caregiver chapter. So I'm not going into the detail here. This is very important. You should plan for plan B and C as well. You may be the plan A being the caregiver, but many a time you will have to resort to a plan B or plan C because of some contingencies. So that always has to be there in your mind. So these are the basic health advisories for elderly population during COVID-19 issued by the ICMR guidance document. The do's are: stay at home, avoid meeting visitors at home. If the meeting is essential, maintain a distance of 1 meter, that is, stay 6 feet away, which is about 2 arms length. Wash your hands and face with at regular intervals with soap and water or a sanitizer. Use mask always. Sneeze and cough either into your elbow or into tissue paper or handkerchief. After coughing and sneezing, dispose of the tissue paper and wash your handkerchief immediately. Ensure proper nutrition through home-cooked fresh hot meals. Hydrate frequently and take fresh juice to boost immunity. So boosting of immunity is important, and for that to adhere to balanced good diet plan is also very important. So that point has to be kept in mind. Ensure proper nutrition through home-cooked fresh food, hot meals. So ensure that they are getting all adequate carbohydrates, proteins, minerals, trace elements, vitamins, everything is there in the diet that you should ensure. Exercise and meditate. Have a plan, have a timetable for that. Take your daily prescribed medicines regularly. Very important. Whatever be the crisis scenario, that's why we told of stocking if required, procuring it in time, discussing with the doctor, any dose adjustments are required. All those things you need to do accordingly. Talk to your family members not staying with you, relatives, friends via call or video conferencing. Take help from family members if needed. Don't hesitate to take any help from your family members. After all, they are your near and dear one who are there to help you. Postpone your elective surgeries, if any, like a cataract surgery or total knee replacement. So that the elective surgery in itself is elective. It's not a mandatory or an emergency surgery. So you weigh the benefit as well as the risk. And in the given situation, the risk outweighs the benefit of an elective surgery. So just defer the surgery if the surgery is an elective surgery. Clean the frequently touched surfaces with disinfectant regularly, especially in the case of elderly, and more important if in the case of persons with visual impairment. Monitor your health. If you develop fever, cough, and or breathing difficulty, immediately contact the nearest healthcare facility and follow the medical advice rendered. Don'ts. Do not cough or sneeze into your bare hands or without covering your face. Don't go near your contacts if you are suffering from fever and cough. Don't touch your eyes, face, nose, and tongue. Don't go near affected or sick people, and don't please self-medicate. Don't shake hands or hug your friends and near ones. Do not go to the hospital for a routine checkup or follow-up. Rely on teleconsultation with your healthcare provider as much as possible. Avoid you going physically to your healthcare center for any requirement. Adopt, at least for the time being, to the teleconsultation modes. Don't go to the crowded places like parks, markets, and even religious places. Don't go out unless it is essential. So that is the key thing. If it is that much essential only, especially people in the old age group, even otherwise, even without disability, they are in the reverse quarantine group. They are in the high risk group because naturally they tend to have comorbidities. Their physiological function even otherwise is compromised. The chance for hypertension, diabetes, and other lifestyle diseases and other comorbidities are so very high. Disability itself again affects them. So it is a double or triple or a quadruple burden for a person with disability in his old age with comorbidities. So adhere to whatever directions which had been given till now.